Oh, you did it.
Nintendo has just announced new hardware, but it is not what we expected. How are you feeling? Are you awake? What do you think?
I am now. Yeah, some people were saying like, oh, this might be the Switch 2 announcement date, and this is like maybe the ultimate troll to announce an alarm clock. But, sometimes people say, especially these last couple years, what happened to fun Nintendo? What happened to weird Nintendo? Nintendo now is very, focused on staying in its lane.
Yeah.
And we just don't kind of get those zany announcements or products. We sure did today, though.
We did, yeah. Weird Nintendo surely is back with this announcement. It definitely isn't what I think any of us, we weren't expecting this. But I guess people, just looking at the reaction so far, people seem weirdly interested in this. Are you weirdly interested in this? What is your initial thoughts about it?
I'm definitely not interested in actually using it. But I am interested in just like the details of it. And, to be honest, like this is kind of the culmination of like a 10-year project that we definitely heard a lot about when we were inside Nintendo. So from that point of view, I am interested in it as well.
Yeah, it also is, I'm like you, I'm not interested in like purchasing or using it because it seems awful to me, like a nightmare, honestly. But I am interested in what this means for Nintendo because, they kind of dabbled in this quality of life. That was something Mr. Iwata talked so much about when we were there in the Wii U days and the sad Wii U days. They're out of the sad Wii U days, so there is no need for this kind of zany product. So, why are they releasing something like this now? What does this mean? Do they see more of these products in the future? Is there going to be some sort of like quality of lifestyle product line that Nintendo will, have? And this is like the first one of those. Like it just could mean some different trajectories for the company. So I'm interested in digging into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, let's start with what this product is, because there's actually a lot of information that they put out. Because believe it or not, the product is out today.
It is.
In certain places. Like we know people who are buying it right now. So the product is called Alarmo. It is an interactive, motion-based, smart alarm clock.
Oh, gosh.
And when your alarm goes off, themed Nintendo music will play. The music, and there's various sounds that will play that will get louder until you actually get out of bed, and at which point it will stop, and it's all tracked by motion.
Right.
There is a setting where you can, press a button if you want it to stop, but the idea is that it's, you go about your day, and this thing will wake you up and stop when you finally do get out of bed.
Yeah.
There's also a mode that it will sense you getting into bed, and it will play, quote, sleepy sounds to help you relax and get in the mood to sleep. I have some questions about that. In true Nintendo fashion, it does keep track of your sleep data while you're in bed. They only showed a couple very brief images of that. It's hard to tell exactly
what it's tracking.
What it is tracking.
Yeah.
It will give you an hourly chime. In whatever theme you're using, just to tell you you're at the top of the hour. And going back to that Nintendo IP integration, it currently out of the box will have alarms that are based on 5 games. And those games are Super Mario Odyssey, Pikmin 4, Splatoon 3, Ring Fit Adventure, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Interesting choice for them to go on specific games versus like broader IPs,
characters,
why is it Pikmin 4 versus just Pikmin? I have a question about that.
Why is it Mario Odyssey and not just Mario?
Right. And within those 5 games, there are 7 alarm varieties that will give you different combinations of music and sound that you can choose from. There's also like a little character that will like bop around on the actual screen of the clock. And they said, this is an alarm clock that you connect to the internet. So they will be adding more alarms in the future through a free update. They specifically called out Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing New Horizons as 2 that people can look forward to. So that's kind of in a nutshell, what this thing is and how it works.
Yeah.
As we were saying, it is out today. So in Nintendo New York, you can go and buy it.
You
And
can order it online.
it is
Yeah.
also available through the My Nintendo store, only to paid Nintendo Switch Online members.
Yeah.
Which I think is fascinating. And they said it's going to be available at actual retailers that are not Nintendo New York in early 2025.
Right.
They did put out an extremely extensive Ask the Developer article
on a clock
on this about a clock. It's like 5 parts. I just kept reading and reading and reading.
Yeah,
like, this is not going to stop.
Yammering on about a clock. Awesome.
I would say that it's a pretty dry installment. It's also about an alarm clock, so maybe that's why. But they did talk about how this was a collaboration between EPD and the hardware teams, which is a different process than typically how they make a game. And there were some, challenges relating to that. They were very clear to point out, hey, we're not using cameras in this. We're not trying to be creepy. This is motion sensors only. We are not watching you sleep or whatever else you might be doing in your bed.
No.
I don't know if I believe them. Where's the hidden camera? And they also talked about how they experimented with gesture-based controls to, activate it or turn it off. But they figured out that just didn't work well.
Yeah.
So they kind of went with the current approach. So, wow, just kind of a salvo of information on Alarmo.
I didn't know that
very early in the morning as I was waking up, like, what's happening?
They put it out in the morning on purpose so that you're literally
that woke me up.
Being woken up by the crazy, ridiculous announcement that is Alarmo with all this information.
So all this information, what do you want to react to here? Where do you want to start with?
Well, let's just start with the basics of like whether or not we think that it's a good idea to have this kind of like entertainment-y game kind of thing kind of like infiltrate into your human necessity parts of your life. Sleep
so two things can be true.
Yes.
I personally, I don't like these types of products. I think that sleep is this like mysterious thing that it's like, how does it happen? Like, we don't exactly know, but it's super important for your life. I happen to be a good sleeper, just like, again, out of the box as a human being. So I don't want to like monkey with that. On the other hand, this is a very popular product line at the moment. Like, there's all sorts of gizmos and apps that's like, we'll track your sleep, we'll help you sleep better. In games, Pokemon Sleep has been strangely very popular.
Yeah, I was going
to it's not, you can't say like that there is not a market for this, because there clearly is.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, people with Apple Watches, even just like a lot of normal devices you have, there is this idea and interest that people have in tracking and understanding their sleep. Because I think you're right. Sleep is very mysterious. And I think people that don't get good sleep want to get good sleep. For me personally, though, I really dislike stuff like this. I hate it when like outside forces are in my human necessities. Like I really, it makes me like, makes my skin crawl. Like, it's gross to think that like this outside entertainment based company or whatever, or like a tech company is now infiltrated into something that I need to live as a human being. And so this just is a very negative reaction for me. Like, the idea of having something watch me while I move around in my bed, or like playing these crazy game sounds. Like, when I was watching that video and it was like the coin was going nuts and this person was like rolling around in bed, like trying to wake up, like that is my nightmare. Like I think I would throw that thing out the window immediately if that was how I was being woken up. I'm not a morning person. I have to be woken up in a very specific, gentle way, and I have it set. I do this already in my own way, and like if there's another way that I'm being woken up, like I will punch. I will hurt somebody. Like, not good for me. Not good at all.
So you're set in your ways, aka old, but
I can't do this. It's so weird.
As far as like kids, maybe like this is a fun way to go to sleep, respect your sleep time. I don't know, but again, like the kind of the business reality of like this is a popular place to be.
Yeah.
I do wonder, this approach of where they're selling it now through My Nintendo and then in retail later. I thought two things. This approach of selling to NSO members, I don't recall. Have they done this before? I
No, they
don't think they
haven't.
have.
And we've talked about a little bit how like they should, like, for example, the amiibo stuff. Like that was such a pain point for people and for us when we were working there, where they should have done something like that where you give access of this kind of like very core Nintendo fan focused product to your most passionate audience, which is probably your paid NSO members and your My Nintendo
Right.
members. So, is this a test?
That's what I thought too. Like, they're
Yeah.
eventually going to be selling something like a Switch 2 that's going to be in extremely high demand, and
Yeah.
they don't want the bad PR story of this being a complete disaster of just scalpers
Scalpers?
getting
Yeah.
everything. So I am really interested in this approach of selling it that way. And the other point about retailers taking it later, I kind of have a feeling that like retailers were maybe a little lukewarm on this, where it's like,
Right.
well, we'll take some, but we kind of don't know what this is, and we don't really know where to sell it, and we don't know who the market is. But
Right, right.
you're Nintendo, and we sell a lot of your stuff, so sure, we'll take some. So they're like, well, let's turn this into a positive and use this as an experiment to sell through our own channels and see if this is an effective way to sell something to our super engaged mega customers.
Yeah, I totally had the exact same thought about this. It's like this is an experiment. They're probably gearing up to do some other sales type things that is going to require some kind of, creative solution, whether it is through, some kind of pre-ordering solution that makes sense. But yeah, I had that same reaction to this. And yeah, I wonder how successful this is going to be and what that means for these types of like, either very limited fan products or even something like new hardware like a Switch 2, where they might just be very, stock constrained at the beginning. So
Yeah.
interested to see how it goes for them.
So the legacy of this product is very interesting. Started in 2014 with this announcement about Nintendo getting into the quote quality of life category by
Yes.
Mr. Iwata. And as everybody knows, 2014 was an extremely weak, extremely concerning time for the company, where they were just looking like what can we do to keep this business afloat until we can get back on track. And that was very much what it felt like to us when we worked there in 2014, and even like made us ask some questions of like, well, this is very different than games. Like, are we even going to be in games in 10 years? Like, where is this all headed?
Right.
And there are some quotes from Mr. Iwata kind of talking about like what the big picture vision for this is, which is very helpful to look at today. I'll just read a little bit here about, he's talking about how we focused on the last decade, our strategy being expanding the gaming population by offering products which can be enjoyed by anyone, regardless of age, gender, or gaming experience. And then he also talks about how the business environment is changing. And he does make this point about how, we have this idea around health as a general theme. And through this new platform, we can plug in to that strategy of expanding the user base, creating an environment where more people are, just connected to Nintendo in a way that they wouldn't ordinarily be, like helping it become part of their everyday life. And that is a drum that would get, hit over and over for us of like, how can we turn Nintendo into not just something that you interact with when you play a game, but something that is like constantly enveloping you in your entire life.
Yeah. Nintendo, in especially in those Mr. Iwata days, was really they were really shifting our thinking when we were working there and just wanting to shift the minds of the general Nintendo fan or even beyond the Nintendo fan into like really seeing the company as less of a video game company and more as a lifestyle entertainment company. And since then, whether or not these quality of life products have made it to market, a lot of them have not. That's still been the business strategy of like audience expansion through these different avenues beyond games. And in recent, obviously in the Switch years, there's been the movie and the theme parks and the other entertainment things. But it does seem like Nintendo has not forgotten about the quality of life um, sort of initiatives as well. Because even on Switch, there was Ring Fit. There was still this focus on health and wellness, as Mr. Iwata had really dreamed about, I think, in his day. And I don't think that the company has forgotten that or will forget that. And this is sort of another proof point that they really do want to exist in this lifestyle wellness space.
And when this was first announced, there was a major push, and the company was saying like, we're going to release this product soon, which Mr. Kimishima, who became president, eventually walked back. And he said, we do not have the conviction that the sleep and fatigue themed device can enter the phase of actually becoming a product. So they kind of walked back all of that, and you just didn't hear about it. Kind of the scuttlebutt around the company at the time was like, well, they can get it to work 95% of the time, but it's that last 5% that's like kind of critically important to
Right.
making it something that, like, having your alarm go off every morning is important. Don't miss that flight. Don't miss the big meeting.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're kind of struggling with that 5%. So until we can get that right, like, we can't really put this out. So I guess they solved
whatever
problems they have. It took
Yeah.
10 years. And this is just such another great point of, when Nintendo has an idea, if it doesn't work out, they don't throw it away. They just
That's right.
they just, put it somewhere
File it
nicely and be
away.
like, we will be back to that when technology has progressed or our thinking
yeah.
on it has matured. Just
Exactly.
again and again, we see this all the time.
Yeah, this is so embedded in their DNA of like never throwing away an idea. And yeah, I think these big concepts though of like Nintendo being not a gaming company, an entertainment company, a lifestyle company, like those are things that we tend to forget about when we're in eras like the Switch era where the games are so good, that the gaming device is so good and so popular. But Nintendo doesn't forget about that. Like they are still very focused on this idea of we're not just making video games, we're doing all these other things.
Yeah. So there are some other patents that appeared, some of them from close to 10 years ago.
Right.
This one from 10 years ago looks a heck of a lot like Alarmo, I gotta say.
Yeah, it does.
And then there was another one that came out in 2020. So these things have been periodically coming out. Again, like they're putting patents for like so many different things.
Right.
But these in hindsight are very interesting to look back on. Again, just like the very slow progress that they've just been chipping away on this for the past decade.
Right.
So do you think this can become a new product line, or is this just like a one and done, like, yeah, we did the thing that we said we would 10 years ago and we're out?
I do think that they still will want to be in this like health and wellness space. Whether it becomes its own product line, I don't know. But I think that there is interest in this area of people's lives that they want to be a part of. And it can take many forms. It can take the form of a more like, directly game kind of thing, like a Ring Fit or like a Wii Fit. It could take the form of something a little bit ancillary, like an alarm clock, or I can see them doing some sort of like fitness tracker kind of thing. They've definitely dabbled and have kind of been on the fringes of the space for 20 plus years. And I don't think they're going to get out of it. I think they're just going to keep kind of getting a toe in the water there. But
yeah,
this space is interesting.
I go back to this point that, like, yes, this is a weird product, but it is rooted in a successful like business like category.
Yeah.
Like this idea of, wearables or, things that enhance your fitness or your general health, like, is super popular. It's like, yeah, I could see them continuing to riff on this. It's like, what is a product that's already out there that like we can deliver in a Nintendo way?
In a Nintendo way.
Like, is there some sort of like, reduced like Apple Watch that is a wearable that's going to, blast out coin sounds at you or something?
Oh, God.
We've something that riffs on like the Pokewalker that's in a bit more of a modern sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of ideas here, and who knows? Like, again, this is popular. Like, one of these could become a hit. So I actually think they should keep exploring this. So, interesting conclusion for us to come to that this is a promising product line that they should keep
Hmm.
looking at, keep experimenting with.
Yeah.
Yet, this first product is something we absolutely do not want.
No, exactly. Yeah, the first product I'm uninterested in. Yeah, but I can see them continuing to innovate in this space, and maybe there will be a next product that will be a little bit more interesting to us. But I do think a lot of people are really interested in this, and they want this, and they want to wake up to the Mario sounds. And if you are them, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. But that is definitely not who I am. So
There you
yeah.
have it.
All right. So let us know in the comments what you think of Alarmo. Are you going to get one? Tell us about your sleep routines and your sleep habits, and if you like this product or not. We're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you later.
Bye.